What is happening, everyone? This is probably going to be the video of the day with lots and lots of streamers and myself included covering how we're over 100k stakers. Now, I may or may not have created another account and dropped in enough to get a 1T share over 555 days. That may or may not have occurred. But anyway, you know, we have 100k stakers. Back in the day, I would have gone to, this is a flashback, man. This is literally me, a younger me, I think a skinnier me too, looking at Hex.live. And if you remember this site, I think it was a precursor to Staker app, could be wrong. Once it hit over 100x, little fireworks started to appear. So it would have been cool to see that website up and live when, you know, it did the insane numbers, the insane figures. Anyway, moving on. Thank you everyone who tunes into this content, who likes and subscribes. I haven't freaked you out too much. Hopefully you're listening and we can make change peacefully, politically, legally and lawfully is the thing I like to say. Now, we've got here a good example. Japan had a central bank digital currency plan. They wanted some control over their people, you know, and lo and behold, people said, nah, I'm not engaging with this. I'm not partaking. Even if there's a better program, I'm not being paid to do this. So if you think about that, maybe if that comes to your neck of the wood and you decide not to engage with it, maybe you might be saving yourself, you know. For instance, if they had programs being rolled out, you decided to take part in it, sorry, you're basically sort of assisting this program to move forward, because here we see maybe a pilot program basically got shut down. So we can vote with our dollars, as we always can, as you have the choice to, you know, either go to the local supermarket or maybe shop locally at and support your local farmers or whatever the case may be. Okay, that's pretty straightforward, but yeah, just would like to point that out. Hopefully people are thinking about not just the current now, but the future and how we can actually change the future by our actions that we take now. I could say, you know, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and yeah, basically your decisions have consequences. Moving on, we remember, or some people might remember, the France Yellow Vests activists. They had lots and lots of protests, and at the same time, there was also the Hong Kong protests going on. Now, people, it appears, were getting together and they weren't happy with their government, how they were treating them. There's a lot more to research into that, why it was taking place, and basically got shut down, never to be heard of again, because other things occurred, which we can't probably talk about on YouTube because maybe it might trigger, you know what I'm talking about. It's like virus related. Hong Kong was a different situation. They were subject to the same global events that took place, but they also had I think it was a treaty of some sort that handed over power basically from UK after 99 years of rule back to the communist CCP, Communist Chinese Party. And a lot of these protesters were just never heard of again. They weren't even allowed to protest with any signage, so this here became illegal. Basically, people were protesting with a blank sign, so no message at all was being explained, or there was no message. There was people standing there with blank signs. Gone, forbidden, banished. Moving forward in this timeline, remembering the Yellow Vests, you remember the Hong Kong protests. We moved to Canada and we saw what took place there. So at least they're allowed to, you know, have signs that say "Stand with the farmers." But as we are aware, people were basically having their bank account shut down because if there was ties to anyone who was buying fuel for someone because their car was out of fuel or their vehicle was out of fuel, their bank accounts were getting shut down. Now that's, in my humble opinion, that is hugely tyrannical. Now, it might not sound too much, but think about it. You're struggling for money and you've got a little bit of money left. Someone helps you out, buys you some food, buys you some fuel, gives you a place to stay, buys you a blanket because you're freezing cold, and the government decides to come along and then close your access to those funds. That's insane, but that's the world we live in. Now, this would have never been acceptable prior to certain global events that took place that allowed for people to reveal that they were a bunch of sheep, in my opinion, and they were submissive, very submissive, to the overreach of governmental powers that were being tested, because those events that took place had never taken place in the modern era. And with modern technology co-opted with an authoritarian type playbook, it allowed for people to be absolutely crushed under the weight put on them and the strains put on them by their own government. And this is not communist countries we're talking about here. I mean, this is Canada. This is like, what, up north from the US? This is one of the Five Eyes of Australia. Like, that is insane, if you ask me. I was going to play a song here, Another Bites the Dust, but I won't. Again, military-industrial complex, shouldn't condone killing, but this is breaking news. The CIA carried out a drone strike in Kabul over the weekend. 2 US officials tell me this would mark the first publicly known CIA alphabet strikes that I can recall since the fall of Kabul last year. So just looking out my window now, no drones, not yet anyway. Brandon didn't drop any, he's got any drones lined up for me yet. But seriously, people, that's pretty freaky. The amount of intel that would be required. Another one bites the dust. Kind of a good thing. But, you know, military-industrial complex and the spending versus hunting down people that they likely trained. I mean, it's just a shitstorm, honestly. It's a shit show. But it is world news. Talking about the military-industrial complex, we have Taiwan cancel some of the soldiers to immediately prepare for war. Breaking news, pumping that military-industrial blood through all of our veins. You know, we got to go to war. Because, you know, that, who was that general that said it? You know, if you got a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail, but you got to smash that hammer on something. I mean, I'm much more happy under what the US has and how they basically try and protect the world. Less so in this era of integrated alliances. But it's just never ending. It's like all the taxes that you pay, regardless of your country, a small portion of that is most likely going into supporting the military-industrial complex. You're welcome. But that's like, do we even get a thanks? Like, we're just supposed to, we're told that we've got a boogeyman and we've all got to fear the boogeyman. So I'd imagine Russia's doing that, saying, oh, the evil West. China's doing that, oh, the evil West. And they fight against each other. You got to remember, people, back in World War I and World War II, those weapons weren't free. They didn't just make themselves. They didn't just get financed by themselves. Did you know, have a look in the history books, that the banks funded both sides of the war? If I'm trying to fit like a textbook like about this fat into like a few paragraphs. If you read Tragedy and Hope, it basically explains to someone who has no understanding about anything how the world was shaped up until about the 1990s, 2000, because that's when the book was based. Since then, technology has just plowed ahead. But what they say, basically, they did predict that China would be a new future superpower, and that it explains that both sides, you know, get funded by the big banks, the banksters. You know, the Fed that's never been audited. They've had legislation put in place to try and audit the Fed. Shut down. There's no way anyone's auditing that Fed. I'm telling you. Yeah, my screen's glitching out. That's pretty normal. My computer got, on another note, my computer got fried the other day, but luckily I had a spare one lying around, so I'm up and running again. For now. As Pelosi arrives in Taiwan, annoying China, China renews their threats, US sends in $90 million of hardware. Maybe not hardware, but they spent $90 million on projecting their power. Because you got to remember, when you have an unlimited credit card, you got to spend it on something. And what's the biggest industry besides drugs? It's weapons. And did you know that if you produce enough of these weapons and sell them to other people, it increases your economy? Hence, China's copying USA's playbook to increase its military-industrial complex. In some instances, they teach in their universities, I believe, a lot of history that is actually not taught in the US, which is insanity. And this is like from Australia's point of view, so I could be wrong here. So, I'm just saying what I believe is correct and what I've done, what my research has led me to believe is correct. So they're not like biased either way. But as I said before, don't really want communism anywhere near me or my family. If I have kids, near my dogs and shit, no thanks. Now so scaling it back from the geopolitics, we've got, how they say cryptocurrency is censorship resistant. Well, now the Victorian police have been given powers to seize cryptocurrency wallets under new organized crime laws. So this is really frustrating. This is like the gun laws revisited. Basically, you have someone who does the right thing. The majority, 99% of people do the right thing. You have 1% of people do the wrong thing. So the government decides to smash everything with its hammer and be like, bam, that's a nail. Okay, this is like bad, give these powers to them. I mean, you can understand where it's coming from, but it's the same argument like we need to get rid of cash, the move towards a cashless society. What does that bring about? Oh, lo and behold, the cashless society pushes us closer to a central bank digital currency. Whether you knew that or not, people need to, in my opinion, not focus on the here and now, but the future and where the future trends, where the rudder is pointing us in the ship that we are sitting in the boat, So this is what I find interesting about this as well. It's not the part where they say the police can adopt, where is it? Can't even find my cursor. The police can take fake identities to easily catch out criminals, which is kind of weird. Like they got more broad powers now, basically. But it's people that do crime. I don't understand. Like if they understood how to maybe take part in cryptocurrency, like legitimately, they could make gains that absolutely destroy, most of the time, destroy like the criminal illegalities that they take place in. But yet they don't. And people, I don't know how to say this. So people take part in crime and they think that they're going to make some money, and then it draws attention to the crimes that they commit and the money that they make, and they try and launder it and shit. So then the police go, oh, we've got to crack down on this, oh, cash, oh, cryptocurrency, oh, we've got to get more powers and shit like that. So that seems like logical, but then it's fascinating to see, this is going to come out really bad. It's fascinating to see the criminals that take part in this, although they might be highly sophisticated, they might be hugely intelligent. The money that they're making does not come anywhere near the amount of money that governments make when they produce mass weapons and sell them to people. It does not come anywhere near the big pharma industry. It does not come close to any of it. I mean, you might think it does in some instances, but then it turns out half of it is run by the government anyway. And they've got, what's his name? The rapper who took the identity of someone else. He'll come to me. Oh my God, I can't think of it. And he wears, oh my God, what's his name? This is going to do my head in. He'll come to me anyway. So people get sucked in at this low-level crime because they think they can make some money when legitimate opportunities are literally right in front of you and you're not taking it. And then government cracks down on the thing that can actually make you more money. It's insanity. There's another book I read. It basically explains this to people. It explains that people end up low-level thugs, right? Or whatever. High-level thugs. Who knows? The Costa Nostra or something, you know? Like the mob. Who knows? But then, like, the real... the real people that are seeking actual insane power are the people that are taxing you for your hard-earned legitimate money. Think about that. Just let that sink in, you know? I cannot think of that rapper's name. Oh my god. That's doing my head in. Nah, I'm gonna have to look this up. What's his name? And basically, this rapper took his name and he was, turns out that his name was actually the name of someone else used, and it turns out he was actually working for the government and he was shipping a shit ton of drugs all through the world, and lo and behold, he was working for the government. What's his name? God, I can't type. Rick Ross. I'm not even kidding. Not even kidding. This is not a lie. Look this up. Fact check me. Please. Please, I'm begging you, everyone watching this stream, please fact check what I'm saying. YouTube too, please do it. This is rapper Rick Ross, I'm reading an article here, wins legal fight with former drug dealer whose name was Rick Ross. I'm not even kidding. Rapper Rick Ross wins legal fight with former drug dealer over use of name, reportedly. I will put this up in here. I'm not making this up. Nobody sue me. What the actual... Think about that, people. Just think about that. All right, hopefully that stirred up some thoughts. Again, peacefully and politically, we can make change in this world, but we have to not get tricked or sucked into these silly games that government might try and play. We need to not partake. Where is it? We need to not partake in their central bank digital currencies. Where possible, maybe we can peacefully protest legally and lawfully. And hopefully the government won't send a drone strike to crush us. Hopefully there's no world war. Hopefully one day the US can pay their debt back in other countries. And hopefully people realize when they do crimes, they might one day encounter someone who, can fight, or who, might have some of their own legal means to defend themselves, and justice might be served. But in the end, what I'm trying to say is the future is in our hands. We have to nurture it, and we have to make the decision whether or not we support things or don't support things. So in this case, I would like, it known that just because you hold cryptocurrency, you're not a criminal. Just because you hold you know what I mean? Just because you hold cryptocurrency doesn't automatically tie you into some underworld nefarious thing. But people can make a lot of money with cryptocurrency legally and lawfully, legitimately. They can make more money than you can ever imagine. Is what it is, people. But yeah, there's always going to be people that do the wrong thing, I guess. Always people that are going to do the right thing. Ultimately, we have to get involved politically, I believe, because that is where the ultimate power lies, in ruling and guiding humanity. This Hexcoin, signing out.